Welcome to In the Hot Seat with the Tenney Group. I'm Spencer Tenney. It's good to be with you. We've got another special client edition of the Hot Seat here with us today. Jeff Gunnin, former owner of C2 Logistics out of Alabama. Jeff, welcome to the Hot Seat.
Thank you, Spencer. I appreciate you allowing me to do this.
Well, I'm very excited about the conversation we're about to have. So before we kind of heat things up a little bit, Jeff, tell us just a little bit about C2 Logistics and the recent transaction that just took place.
Okay, we were in business for 24 years. Actually, I had a partner. He was a minority-owned partner. His name was John Cunningham. He was also my first cousin, and we started it in 1998. And when we started, I went to two or three of my mentors and asked them about what they thought about that kind of direction, and I think I had 5 people that advised me not to get into this brokerage business, and I'm so glad that I didn't listen to that advice, because it was really a godsend, and started it here in rural Alabama, which was a real plus. It was I live up in Winston County, Alabama, where on the upper side of Smith Lake, and I was in the lumber business, so I turned my sawmill office into an office and outgrew that, and then bought trailers and outgrew the trailers, and then finished out my planer building and put them into offices, and that's where we were until we sold. In fact, we're still there. We're under the new ownership now in the same building.
And who is the buyer that you ultimately selected to carry the business forward?
A company called TA Services. They have offices in Birmingham, Dallas, all the way up into Canada, and I think down to the southern border. So they've got several offices scattered around.
Well, I love it. Well, there's so many highlights along the way. So let's jump in here and unpack this a little bit. So you start in 1998. What were 2 or 3 of the major milestones that allowed the business to get from that zero revenue to where you ended up selling at?
Well, first of all, when we started it, going way back, John and I had an uncle that was killed in Vietnam in 1968. He was a pilot and was shot down, and they found his remains in 1998, and we come together as a family unit, and he was asking me about what to do about a situation he had. He was in a trucking company, and I had suggested that he go in and do some brokerage with this company. Company was not interested in doing that, and I wasn't looking for a partnership or anything of that kind, but I was phasing out of the sawmill business and lumber business, and was sort of looking for something to do, and so he and I decided to go in that direction, and so we started it, and it was rough times in the beginning. I spent most of my time on the phone talking to carriers and trying to talk them into moving loads, because our MC number was new, and they didn't trust us, and I had been told, that, and I had also experienced and witnessed that there were several companies that were not doing it the way that I wanted to run it, and which was a motivator for me, because of the fact that I felt like if somebody got in there and done it a different way, and they could be successful, and it turned out that way.
Well, it's a wonderful story in terms of what you and your partner were able to accomplish over that period of time, and just overcoming some of these challenges. So tell us about what were the factors that led to you moving towards an exit. What were the the signs or the things that said, hey, this is my time to transition the business to another party?
Well, I am now 64 years old, about to turn 65 here in November of 2022. John was much younger than I am. He was a good bit younger, and so uh, uh, and I had started getting some health concerns about 3 to 4 years ago, and couldn't find out the cause of it. So, and every year we would take our group to a trip of some kind. We were down in um, Florida with about 50 or 60 people, and I had taken the motorhome down there, and because my doctor had told me that if I would get down into Florida on the coast with that air coming in, he told me it was a sinus issue that I would clear up. Well, I ended up staying all the way. We went all the way to Key West, Florida, and stayed for 2 months, and I actually got worse. So I had come back to do a very thorough physical at one of the major hospitals in Birmingham, Alabama, and within a short period of time after I started that physical, they found out that I had multiple blood clots in my lungs. And so at that point, my wife had already been talking to me about moving out for years. God had blessed us with good savings and good investments and things like that. And John was not able to and neither did he have any desire to buy me out. So while I was in Florida, I had made several decisions. It clears your head when you get away from, when you get at a 30,000 foot elevation of a company, get it away. And that was a real benefit to me. So I had decided on that trip that I would go ahead and start working toward an exit strategy. And one side note there, I had a very sharp businessman that had told me to start an exit strategy 10 to 15 years prior to that. And I chose not to do that. And so I was doing some catch up during that time, and I had come back and told John that I was interested in selling out, and told him that I wanted to keep a real low profile to that and just start. And I would pick the company, and at that time he said, "Well, I'm ready to go out too." So we were both in agreement with that. And so I started looking for companies. I had already had for a year, 2 years plus, I had companies calling me on a fairly regular basis
Oh yeah.
to help sell the company. And it was always a no. Never did I crack the door even. And so when I started searching, I found the Tenney Group in Franklin, Tennessee. I researched them some, found out that they were most likely the best company to line up with my values. Ended up driving up there to Franklin with my wife and meeting you, Spencer, and Eric, and there was about three of them that took us out to lunch right there in that little quaint little town of Franklin, Tennessee. And I was sold. I come back and told John. He ended up going back up, I think, at some point and meeting some of y'all. But we were already on the way at that point.
And we're so glad that it worked out that way. I remember your wife came to our office. She was harassing me a little bit. She thought there should have been a little bit more concentration of female professionals on our team, which we've addressed that since then. But she,
Yeah,
she's pretty fiery. I
yeah,
needed to address that, and I've listened. We've done that, and we're better for it. So I always appreciate that nudging from her.
right.
So we got involved in the process, and you mentioned doing some catch up, but one of the things that there was a lot of things going on with your business, and this is a challenge for a lot of folks, is that it was growing so fast, which from a valuation standpoint made it a little bit difficult to pinpoint. So, what were some of the things as you got in there that you experienced that were challenges or surprises that maybe you'd want other owners to be aware of as they begin preparing for a future exit?
Well, I had been told that it could be an emotional process, which it was to some degree. Um, and I'll always appreciate, all the ones, Kevin and Stephen and Eric, and all the ones that I worked with on a daily basis, and how well they handled me through that process, and never push, which was a big deal for me. I've always backed away from any kind of process that was pushing me into a direction I might not want to go. That was never an issue at all with the Tenney Group. And um, and by the way, through that whole process, it turned out that my partner John, he ended up passing away, dying
Mm-hmm.
in at the tail end of that. And so with all of the things that was going on with that, we were growing quite fast, um, and I had three main requirements. One was that I wanted a company, and I wanted to entertain a company that was willing to hire my people, and uh, and that was important. I wanted, in order to do that and keep them, I wanted to be able to keep them in this area. It didn't have to be my location, but it certainly needed to be in the area where my people would retain their employment. And then I wanted to find a company that lined up with my culture, and I had a lot of companies maybe through the process that might have thought that they could have lined up with the culture, but after study, it didn't seem to be quite that way. And several that did really line up. We went to on several trips and had several to come here, and and so it was a year and a half plus process there.
Mm-hmm.
And and one of the things that was a challenge, and I'll admit this, was the fact that we were so rural. There was a lot of people that were not willing to locate in rural Alabama here and keep an office. Um, uh, the Tenney Group, Eric and the group, they readily accepted that, moved through the process, and kept looking, and with such a welcoming attitude, I might add. And so it made me feel very comfortable with the fact I never questioned once that I had the wrong company to deal with. Um, uh, there was a couple of surprises. One, I never dreamed that there would be that much um, data entry and all the things that come along with that, because I brought the girl that was over my accounting into confidence in through the process. Couldn't have done it without her, Tanya Turner. She was instrumental in helping me, because um, Kevin and the group, they kept her busy. I'm talking about, there was just all the time there was something to, and because really the buyers had everything they needed when they would make a run at me. There was nothing that they questioned as far as the numbers and all that, because the Tenney Group covered it all. And
Well, and and I think that's pretty typical of the average seller. Is just it's not that you have the information; is can you produce it in a variety of different ways so that buyers can look at it the way that they want to look at it. And I
Hmm.
think that you all did a tremendous job, and I think that's a testament to the ultimate deal that you got, and the quality of the buyer that ultimately is taking the business forward, is because that you presented as well as you did. So that's certainly kudos to you and the team that you put together over there. So let's talk about you know this next chapter that's coming up. You were in a place where you'd done well with investments. You said you've been blessed. Kind of throughout your career, and attributed that to your faith and some other things. And so, obviously, our job is try to get the best financial outcome that we possibly can. Your retirement and quality of life was not completely depending on that. But it is interesting as you kind of transition to this next chapter of life. What does that mean for you? What are you going to be doing, and what are you excited about as far as what's coming ahead there, Jeff?
Well, ever since I've become a believer, I wanted to live a life of purpose and do it in such a way that I did not have any regrets. And uh, and through that process, I decided a long time ago. One of the things that was absolutely the hardest thing that I've ever been through in my life was um, my wife and I had prayed for a child for years, um, and God gave us one. And Donna was 44 when we had our son, and we the three of us were very, very close throughout the whole time. He never gave us a moment's trouble, and was a leader, and someone that gave us a great deal of joy. And then in 2016, he was 16 years old. He was killed in a auto accident, a truck accident, a single driver, and no others involved. And it turned our world upside down, no doubt. And uh, but God was faithful through that. We stayed closely tied to a strong prayer life and good friends and a lot of support. And through all of that, we come. You don't ever get over that stuff. You get through it. And so um, the thing that I wanted to do was um, uh, keep things going in a way that you know I never really enjoyed buying a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of stuff, and all it is stuff. And so through that, Spencer, um, I decided that I wanted to do the best I could with what God had given me. End up dying broke, sending it on ahead in the way that I can do that in a way that would honor God. And and so I've lined up with people that can help me do that with goals and things in mind to make that happen. So
Oh, I love that, and I'm so humbled by you sharing that. I didn't really, obviously, I know that story, and I'm not. It's not new, but it feels new, and I just appreciate you sharing that with our folks. It's such an inspiring message, full of purpose of what's going on. Um, so thank you for sharing that. So, what would you say in any term? Last advice. The one thing that we started with, you thought that you were a little bit later in the game. What would you say to the folks that are looking at a sale in the next 1 to 5 years? What would be some of the things that you would suggest that they start doing between now and whenever they exit?
well, you know, you have to mentally get ready for an exit strategy. And I think I could have benefited probably a little better by starting a little earlier with that process. Um, it seemed like it come on pretty fast, even though it took a couple of years. And uh, and it's stressful not, not being able to share. I mean, and I did not share this with my group until I had solidified a lot of decisions in the process, which
Mm-hmm.
I would do again, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And, uh, but I felt very comfortable with the fact that I had chosen TA Services. Scott Shell, the president of that company, um, has was good through that process,
Mm-hmm.
has been good through this process. I talk to him often. I was when I sold, I was not ready to leave and go completely out,
Mm-hmm.
and he asked me to stay on for 2 or 3 years, and I readily accepted to do that because I'm not ready to go out completely. Um, my wife pushes me to travel more and do some of the things with her, and I'm able to do that now, which is so good to to do that. And I still see my people. I see them on a daily basis. We have a huddle in every morning at 8:05. I try my best not to miss every one of those if I'm in town, and so I know the pulse of what's going on through those times. And but um, the process of selling, it has to be something, in my opinion, to where it is um, striving for correct closure. It can't be just something that's a fly-by-night type of thing and say, well, I'm going to live high on the hog, or, in my opinion, because, this industry, this company that I've just sold provided so many benefits to me and my partner. And I would like to say, I never could have been this successful had it not been for my partner, John Michael Cunningham. He was able to go out and travel and go to uh, and build relationships, and that he's tremendously missed. And so, um, but as far as the stress, I don't seem to have any of the stress now that I had before. That's a tremendous blessing
Mm-hmm.
to not have that. But I am looking for other things to do as far as um, uh, they say you can't take it with you, but you sure can send it on ahead. That's one thing that is something that's a goal of mine. The other thing that and I will share this from Karen on, you know, uh, for a business owner that is entrepreneur minded and driven, you know, it's easier to go to work sometime than it is to stay at home and build a family. Uh, and so one of the things that hit me early on was Donna. She kept on wanting to know about, what I'd planned on doing, and I said, well, I'm going to do something someday. And it was much easier to grow. In fact, I've been asked by several, what business are you going to get into? And it's a real discipline not to move into another business
That's
because
right.
I feel energetic and ready to go. But when I would let her know that I loved her, but yet I'd go and spend 60 plus hours at work every week, it was a mixed message for me. And I didn't want to continue that on and on. And that's one of those areas where I don't want any regrets in the end. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was the one of the motivators is to go ahead and, I mean, gosh, we've done been out west traveling, and we go snowmobiling, and she's done got me going to Maine in October. And I mean, just, you know, uh, and I've even said no to some of those trips because it's a little bit much for me. But we are close, and we love traveling and together, and so for my advice to someone that is contemplating, an exit strategy is to do it wholeheartedly in a way to where your family can go with you on these things with the mindset and that letting them know that they're valuable through the process.
Oh, I love that. And obviously, you were living that out from day one when Donna was in her office vetting the Tenney Group and
Yeah.
very much involved, and I appreciated that. And so, hey, Jeff, it is such an honor just to have this conversation. We're so grateful that you invited Tenney Group to be a very small part of a very special story with C2 Logistics that will continue to go on and bless people moving forward. So, thank you so much for being with us in the hot seat, for your friendship, and I just can't wait to see what you do next, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you all.
You bet. That's going to do it for us in the hot seat. We will see you next time.